Bob Potter here, and I'm talking cars today. The other day I sat down and I counted up the number of cars I have owned, and since 1965, that's right, you heard correctly, 27 approximately. And there could be one or two that I missed in there, but I think I got them. 27 different cars over a period of less than 60 years. Now that's just crazy. I mean, really. I think my interest in cars started back when I was a little kid, and my aunt and uncle owned a DeSoto Plymouth dealership on 53rd and Lyndale in South Minneapolis, O.I. Borton Motors. Well, unfortunately, my aunt died early, and then Uncle Oscar, a couple of years later, opened one of the first Volvo dealerships in the country, certainly in the upper Midwest. And I bought my first Volvo from him in 1971, and I kept that car for quite a while. I kept the first few cars for quite a while, partly because, well, I was just as poor as a church mouse. I mean, back in those days, if you go around the world on a dollar, hell, I couldn't get out of sight. But eventually I did have to trade those cars in because in Minnesota, they got rusty and they just kind of wore out. But then I started on this string of buying one car after the other, and I don't know quite why that was. I mean, if you stop and think about it, there's no good logical reason for it, except there was something about each one of these cars that really appealed to me. It called to me. It drew me in. And each time I bought one, I thought, well, this is going to be it. This is going to be, if not the car of the lifetime, at least the car that will last me for a number of years, a decade at least, and probably 100,000+ miles. But no, a new toy would come along. And I always had a rationale for this, you know. I mean, it was always, well, the newer one will get better mileage, or maybe the older one is getting to the point where it's going to start costing a lot in repairs, or gosh, there are some terrific new features available in these newer vehicles, so whatever. I mean, it's ridiculous. I just wanted another car. Now, this one I'm going to talk about next. There's no rationalization for this one at all. None. Don't even try. It is nothing more, nothing less than a sheer toy. So this is it. This is the new toy. It's a two-door, two-seat roadster. What in the world could it be? Doesn't seem like anything you've seen before, I'll bet, huh? Well, probably not, because this is a 2008 Cadillac XLR. The XLR was manufactured by Cadillac from 2004 through 2009, and they only made about 15,000 of them. This particular one, the 2008, they made about 1,500, no, I think it was about 1,200 of them actually, and this one has only 27,000 miles on it, so somebody has taken pretty darn good care of it. This was going to be kind of the flagship for Cadillac, and a lot of their later designs were based on it, kind of the squared off, somewhat boxy style, as opposed to the more rounded version of some of them, the sharp lines and that kind of thing. I happen to think that it's really attractive and really pretty. I have wanted a roadster for, oh God, decades. And I always kind of figured I'd wind up with the Mercedes because I'm more familiar with that brand, and there are a lot of them out there. I did look at them, but frankly, they didn't appeal to me the way this one did. This one, I just really like the looks of it and a lot of the features of it. Now, I've gotten a lot of comments about it. Many people say, gee, what a handsome car. But of course, I'd have to take that with a grain of salt, because if you've got a kid, nobody's going to come up to you and say, that is truly one of the ugliest kids I have ever seen. I mean, that kid has a face that only a mother could love. Well, so anyway, I happen to like the style of this thing. Some may not. That's fine and dandy. One of the things about being a very limited production car is that you gotta watch out for parts. There are not a lot of parts available for this. In fact, if I were to break one of these taillights or one of the headlights, I'd have to go on eBay or to a junkyard or something, and sometimes you can find them there, but they can be upwards of $2,000 because General Motors isn't making them anymore. There was such a limited market for them that no outside manufacturer is going to make them, and so that's what you're stuck with. This thing is powered by a Cadillac engine. They never sold a lot of these, even though they were kind of seen as the flagship of Cadillac back in 2004 when they designed them. And part of the reason for this is because it doesn't have the power of the Corvette. And this is actually built on the Corvette chassis. It's, I guess you could call it Grandpa's Corvette, really, because it's a very slim, a very tuned down version of a Corvette. It doesn't have the harsh ride, and it's not a sports car. It's a roadster. It's a nice riding car, but it's not a sports car. And it has not a Corvette engine, but the Cadillac Northstar V8. There were some problems with the Northstar V8 when it first came out, particularly the head gasket failures. And they took a number of years to get those resolved, but they finally did. Problem was that the head bolts were not long enough, not strong enough. And when you intermix the two metals, the aluminum head and the cast iron block, you had problems there, especially if the engine came close to overheating. But this is a nice combination of power plant and chassis. The engine makes it's a 4.6 liter. Now, why the hell they're talking about liters when it's an American-made car sold in America for Americans? I don't know. Why do they not use cubic inches? Somewhere along the line they got into this liter crap. Well, 4.6 liters is almost exactly 280 cubic inches. It makes 320 horsepower, 300 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you think back to when we were young, in the 1960s, you were doing pretty well if you got 1 horsepower per cubic inch of engine displacement. So this thing is doing very well. I think Ford had a similar size V8 engine, the 289, and I think in its stock version it made about 200, maybe 225 horsepower. So let's take a quick look inside, show you some of the features of this baby. First of all, first thing you'll notice is that there is no door handle. No, they got this very clever arrangement where if you've got the key in your pocket, you put your fingers in here, and it'll open right up for you. And it also has passive locking, so that when you walk away from it, it locks in about 5 seconds. The interior, it's quite nice. It's probably up to the Cadillac standard, I would say. It's not certainly overly ostentatious or anything like that. In fact, it's quite a simple design, which I like. Very straightforward, simple, easy to read gauges, regular switches and stuff. None of this slide touchscreen type stuff. It does have a GPS, but oh my gosh, it's really ancient. It's like Magellan trying to read a map, I would think, one of Magellan's charts. Close the door here. And it has, one of the neat features that you find more on newer cars is the adaptive cruise control, where you're following along with somebody at, say, 65 miles an hour, and if they slow down to 50, the car slows down with it. Now, that's not a big deal today, but in 2008, that was pretty high-end technology. One of the other things that you'll notice about it, what's missing? There's no door handle, right? No, there's no door handle. They've got a push button door exit right down here. You push this button here, and the door opens up. Now, I don't know why they couldn't have gone with a regular door handle. I don't know. But in any case, that's the way it is. If your battery wears down and you can't open up the door, then they've got a little emergency type thing down here that you can use to get the door open if you have to in that fashion. Now, the really interesting button is this one right here, and in the next shot I will show you what this little button right here does. Watch what happens here. It's almost like magic. Isn't that just about the coolest thing you've ever seen? I mean, how impressive is that? My understanding is that Cadillac licensed this opening mechanism from Mercedes or BMW or Porsche. But it's just amazing. I mean, just think of the engineering that went into that and the production that went into it, that they can make it work 15 years after it was made. You heard all those little sounds, the pumps working and the motors working, and there's sensors in there that are detecting where all these various parts are. It's really quite impressive, I think. And what fun to have a beautiful day like it is today in Florida and drive around in the open air. I mean, it's just a blast. I mean, I really got a big kick out of the motorcycles I had, but this is even more fun, and of course, it's a hell of a lot safer. All right, I'm going to fire this engine up just because it does take a fair amount of battery power to operate the opening and closing mechanism, and I'd sure as hell hate to have the battery run down. So let's do that. Let's just start it up. Yeah, it doesn't like the fact that I don't have my seatbelt on. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Yeah. Well, that's the sound of the Cadillac Northstar V8. Quite a lovely noise, if you ask me, the sound of an American V8. Now we're going to put that top back up. Watch this. Here we go again. And that little ding tells you when the operation is complete. So now we're going to put up the windows. And so there you have it, the 2008 Cadillac XLR, a little two-seat roadster from Cadillac. Only 15,000 of them built between 2004 2009, about 1,200 or so in this particular vintage. This one has 27,000 miles on it. It's built on a Corvette chassis, but it does not have the Corvette ride or handling or feel. It's not a sports car by any stretch of the imagination. It's not all that fast. It's a lot of fun to drive. It's easy, comfortable, pleasant, really a great little car. And, I hope to enjoy it for a couple, 3 years and then see if maybe somebody wants to buy it off of me and continue to have a lot of fun with it.